My name is Nina Carter. I'm 31 years old. And the strange thing about humiliation is that it rarely announces itself as humiliation. Sometimes it sounds reasonable. Sometimes it walks quietly into your life, sits across from you, and speaks in a calm, measured voice, like it isn't about to dismantle everything you thought was stable. 3 months ago, my life ended on a Thursday evening at exactly 6:47 p.m. I was in the bathroom, kneeling beside the tub, bathing my son. Elijah was 3, laughing, splashing water everywhere like the world was simple and safe and exactly the way it should be. I remember smiling at him, one hand resting on the edge of the tub, the other holding a washcloth. That's when the phone rang. The landline. We still had one because Marcus insisted it was good for emergencies. I dried one hand on my jeans and reached for it, tucking it between my shoulder and ear. "Hello?" A woman's voice answered. Too calm. The kind of calm that doesn't come naturally. It comes from rehearsal. "Is this Nina?" Something in my chest tightened. "Yes, who's this?" A pause. Then she said very clearly, "My name is Tara. I'm sleeping with your boyfriend. I'm 8 weeks pregnant. And I think you should know." Elijah splashed water onto my leg. I looked down at him. He was laughing, holding his little rubber duck, completely unaware that his mother's life had just been split clean in half by a single sentence. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" She repeated it, word for word. Same calm tone, same precision, like she had practiced it until it no longer shook her. "I'm sleeping with your boyfriend. I'm 8 weeks pregnant, and I think you should know." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even respond. I just hung up, set the phone down on the floor. Then I turned back to Elijah, lifted him out of the tub, wrapped him in a towel, and carried him to his room. I dressed him. Pajamas, socks, nightlight on. I tucked him into bed, kissed his forehead, and closed the door. Then I walked into the kitchen, sat down on the floor, and stared at the wall for 45 minutes. No tears, no panic, just silence, processing, running the math. Tara, 8 weeks pregnant, sleeping with Marcus. Tara. I knew that name. I knew exactly who she was. Tara Simmons, my best friend's younger sister. Shelby Simmons had been my best friend since 7th grade. 20 years. She stood next to me when I got married. She was there when Elijah was born. The first person I called for everything. And Tara? Tara was 4 years younger. I had known her since she was 11. I watched her grow up. Braces, graduation, her crying at Shelby's wedding. She sat at table 6 at my wedding, wore a blue dress, danced with my cousin. That girl, that woman, was sleeping with my boyfriend and carrying his child. And she called my house phone to tell me while I was bathing my son. Marcus came home at 8:30, right on time. Same energy, same routine. He walked in, dropped his keys on the counter, and said, "Hey, babe, something smells good." I blinked. The oven. I had been cooking before the call. Chicken. I had completely forgotten about it. The kitchen smelled like charcoal. "Everything okay?" he asked. I looked at him, really looked at him, and said, "Tara called." It was subtle. If you weren't watching for it, you'd miss it. But I saw everything. Confusion, recognition, panic, calculation, all within 2 seconds. Then the mask. Forced calm. "Tara who?" I shook my head slowly. "Marcus, don't." He leaned against the counter, dragging a hand over his face. "What did she tell you?" "Everything." He closed his eyes, took a breath. And then he did what people like him always do. He tried to manage the damage. "It's not what you think. She's exaggerating. It was one time. She's crazy. She's obsessed with me. I've been trying to end it. She's lying about the pregnancy." 5 excuses in under 10 seconds. Not what you think. Exaggerating. One time. Crazy. Lying. 5 different versions of this isn't my fault, fired off like a machine gun. None of them landed. Because I'm not stupid. And because Tara's voice on that phone wasn't the voice of a crazy woman. It was the voice of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. "How long?" I asked. "Nina, please." "How long, Marcus?" A pause. Then, 7 months. 7 months. Over half a year. 7 months of him leaving this house, going to her, and coming back to me. 7 months of lying. 7 months of touching me with hands that had been on her. 7 months of looking me in the eyes and saying, "I love you." 7 months of kissing my son goodnight and building a second life underneath the first. "Get out," I said. "We need to talk about this." "You need to leave, now." "This is my house too, Nina. You can't just..." "You've been sleeping with Tara Simmons for 7 months. She's pregnant. You either walk out that door, or I call Shelby." That did it. He grabbed his keys, his wallet, and walked out. No bag. No goodbye. No kiss for Elijah. Nothing. Because the threat of Shelby knowing terrified him more than losing me. Think about that. He wasn't afraid of hurting me. He was afraid of being exposed. At 9 p.m., I called Shelby. She answered on the second ring. "Hey girl, what's up?" I swallowed. "Your sister is sleeping with my boyfriend. She's pregnant. She called me tonight." Silence. Long. Heavy. Then. "That's not possible." "It is." I told her everything. 6:47 p.m. The phone call. The words. The tone. Shelby's breathing changed. "I'm calling her right now," she said. "I'll call you back." She hung up. 15 minutes later, my phone rang again. Shelby was crying. "I'm so sorry, Nina." My stomach dropped. "She confirmed it," Shelby whispered. "They've been seeing each other since February. She found out she was pregnant 2 weeks ago." I closed my eyes. "And Marcus?" I asked. Shelby hesitated. "He told her to get rid of it." That hit differently. Not because of Tara. Because of what it revealed about him. "She didn't call you because she felt guilty," Shelby continued. "She called because she was angry at him." I let out a slow breath. Of course she did. I wasn't the reason. I was the weapon. Collateral damage in a fight between a man and the woman he was sleeping with. My entire life detonated because she wanted revenge. I pressed my hand against the kitchen floor to steady myself. "Did you know?" I asked quietly. "No," Shelby said immediately. "I swear, Nina, I had no idea. I would have told you. You know I would have told you." I believed her. I still do. But even then, something didn't sit right. Because secrets like that, they don't stay contained forever. Someone else knew. Someone who sat across from me at dinner. Someone who smiled at me and called me family. I just didn't know who yet, but I was going to find out. The next morning, I did not wake up devastated. That would have been easier. Devastation is obvious. It's loud. It shakes you. It gives people something to recognize. What I felt was colder than that. Focused. Like my mind had quietly stepped out of grief and into inventory. I made Elijah breakfast. Cut his toast into squares because triangles made him suspicious for reasons only 3-year-olds understand. I poured his juice, wiped strawberry jam off his chin, smiled when he asked for his rubber duck to sit beside him at the table. Then I dropped him off with Shelby. She opened the door already looking wrecked, sweatpants, red eyes, guilt all over her face, even though none of this belonged to her. "You don't have to explain again," I told her. "I know, but I still feel like I should." I looked past her shoulder into the house we'd both spent half our teenage lives in. Birthday parties, sleepovers, Christmas movies, her little sister running through the hallway in socks that were always too big. It made my stomach turn. "I need a favor," I said. "Anything. Keep Elijah for a few hours." Shelby nodded immediately. "As long as you need." I bent down and kissed my son's forehead. He was already distracted by the toy cars in Shelby's living room, already laughing, already safe in a way I suddenly understood I could never take for granted again. Then I went home, and I started digging. At first, I told myself I was looking for confirmation. That was a lie. What I was really looking for was structure. If my life had fallen apart, I wanted the blueprint of the collapse. I wanted dates, proof, a timeline, something cleaner than pain. Marcus had left his iPad on the kitchen counter, still logged in, still connected to his messages. That carelessness told me something important before I even touched the screen. He had gotten comfortable. Men only get lazy with lies when they've told them long enough to believe they're in control. I opened his messages, and there it was. 7 months of filth, dressed up as romance. "I need to see you tonight. Miss you already. Can't wait to be alone with you. Thinking about you." It was all there. Predictable, repetitive, intimate in the most unoriginal way possible. That almost made it worse. He wasn't having some sweeping, tragic affair worthy of explanation. He was following a script, the oldest one in the world. Tell the other woman she matters. Tell the woman at home nothing. Repeat until the illusion breaks. I scrolled until my fingers hurt. Then I started mapping it. Tuesday nights when he said he was at the gym, Tara's apartment. Saturday mornings when he said he was running errands, Tara's apartment. That Thursday, he claimed he had a work dinner and came home after midnight smelling too clean, like he had showered somewhere other than his own house. Tara's apartment. I sat down with a pen and a calendar and cross-referenced every message with every excuse I could remember. I became forensic about it. 17 verified lies. 17 specific nights. 17 times I had been home with Elijah, feeding him, bathing him, reading to him, cleaning up toys, folding laundry, living a completely ordinary life, while Marcus was somewhere else building a secret one. There is something particularly cruel about betrayal when you can chart it, when it stops being a feeling and becomes data, a pattern, a habit, a routine. One message hit harder than all the others. It was from 3 months ago. "Tara, when are you going to tell her?" Marcus, "I'm not. She doesn't need to know." Things are fine at home. She's happy. I stared at that for a long time. She's happy. Like I was a houseplant he kept watered. Like my ignorance was proof of his kindness. Then Tara wrote, "And me? Am I just the secret forever?" And Marcus answered, "You're not a secret. You're my peace. She's my responsibility." I don't think I breathed for a full 10 seconds. Peace. Responsibility. That was how he had divided us in his mind. Tara was his peace. I was his responsibility. Not his partner. Not the woman he loved. Not the mother of his child. A responsibility. Like a bill. Like a mortgage. Like something that needed maintenance, not devotion. That text cut deeper than the pregnancy. Deeper than the phone call. Because the phone call had been an explosion. This was surgery. Precise, controlled, fatal. It told me exactly where I stood in his life. I wasn't chosen. I was managed. And Tara, God, Tara, she wasn't special either. Not really. She was just the location where he went to feel unburdened. That wasn't love. That was selfishness with perfume on it. I kept going. I found photos in a hidden album. 14 of them. Some normal enough to pass at a glance. Smiling in a restaurant booth, sitting in a parked car, leaning into him in a park, her hand on his chest like she'd earned the right. Others were not normal. Not even close. The kind of photos no man with a child should have on a device that sits on the same kitchen counter where his son plays counting games. That part made me physically ill. Elijah used that iPad. My little boy held it in both hands and watched cartoons and traced letters on it with his fingers. And on that same device, inside the same house, a few feet from his toys and bedtime books, Marcus had stored pieces of his affair. The disrespect of that was almost abstract. It was more than cheating. It was contamination. He had brought his double life into our home so casually that he didn't even bother to separate it from our child's world. That told me who he really was. Not just unfaithful, careless, lazy, entitled. The kind of man who thinks fatherhood is a title rather than a discipline. Around noon, Marcus texted me. "Can we talk?" I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Then another one came in. "Please don't do anything rash." Rash. That word sat in my chest like acid. 7 months of deception, and I was the one at risk of overreacting. I typed back, "You lost the right to tell me what counts as rash." He responded immediately. "I know you're angry." Angry. Not shattered, not betrayed, not humiliated. Angry. Men like Marcus always preferred emotions they could minimize. Anger could be blamed on impulse. Pain was harder to argue with. I set the phone down and kept digging. Receipts. That was next. Credit card statements from the past 7 months. Restaurants Marcus had never taken me to. Hotel charges that made no sense for someone who supposedly worked late. Jewelry purchases I had never received. A charge from an OB/GYN office that was definitely not mine. That one made my stomach drop. I wrote everything down. Date, merchant, amount. Every receipt was a breadcrumb. Every breadcrumb was proof. There's a moment in betrayal when the hurt begins to harden into something useful. That morning mine did. By early afternoon, my dining table looked like a war room. Printed statements. Screenshots. Notes in the margins. Calendar pages. I should have been falling apart. Instead, I was building a case. And in the quiet between all that work, memories started rearranging themselves. Marcus canceling dinner because of client emergencies. Marcus showering the second he got home. Marcus smiling at his phone and turning the screen away when I walked by. Marcus suddenly caring more about the gym, his shirts, his cologne. All the little details women are taught to dismiss because we don't want to be paranoid. Because we don't want to seem insecure. Because somewhere along the way, we were taught that noticing patterns is less dignified than trusting blindly. I thought about every time I ignored the flicker in my gut. Every time I explained his behavior to myself in the language of patience. He's tired. He's stressed. He's distracted. He loves you. No, he loved access. He loved convenience. He loved being seen as a good man while behaving like a weak one. At 2:13 p.m., Shelby called. "How are you holding up?" "I found everything." Her voice went quiet. "Everything?" "Messages, photos, charges, lies." I paused. There's a text where he says she's his peace and I'm his responsibility. Shelby inhaled sharply like the sentence had hit her in the ribs. "Oh, Nina." I laughed once, but there was no humor in it. You know what the worst part is? What? I don't even think he realized how cruel that was. I think he really thought it made sense. Because that was Marcus's talent. Not deception. Rationalization. He could turn selfishness into philosophy if you let him talk long enough. "He's disgusting," Shelby said. I didn't answer right away. Because disgust wasn't even the whole of it anymore. Disgust was too simple. What I felt now was something steadier. The beginning of detachment. The first cold edge of freedom. There was one more thing bothering me. A feeling I couldn't shake. I had all the evidence of the affair. all the logistics, all the lies. But something about the scale of it, the ease of it, kept nagging at me. 7 months is a long time to juggle 2 lives. Long enough for mistakes. Long enough for overlap. Long enough for someone to notice. And Marcus had never been disciplined enough to pull off something that elaborate on instinct alone. Somebody had helped him, or at the very least, somebody had known. That thought stayed with me the rest of the afternoon. Quiet but sharp. Like a splinter under skin. I went back through the messages again, slower this time. Not reading as a girlfriend anymore. Reading as a witness. A woman gathering every shard before the glass disappeared. And then I saw something that made me stop. A message thread pinned near the top. Not Tara. Not work. Not one of his friends. His mother. Patricia. I stared at her name. Then at the preview beneath it. Is everything handled? My pulse changed instantly. Not faster. Heavier. I opened the thread. And in that moment, before I even read the first full message, I knew something worse was waiting for me. The affair had already broken my relationship. But what I was about to find, that was going to break the family around it. I stared at the screen for a long time before I scrolled. There's a moment, right before you confirm something devastating, where your body gives you a choice. Don't look. Close it. Put the iPad down. Walk away. Keep one piece of your world intact. I didn't take that option. I scrolled. 4 months ago. Marcus, Mom, I need advice about something. Patricia, what's wrong, sweetheart? Marcus, I've been seeing someone. It's complicated. She might be getting serious. My fingers tightened around the edge of the table. Patricia responded almost immediately. Is it someone I know? Marcus, it's Tara, Shelby's sister. There was a pause in the thread. Not long. Just enough to imagine her reading that name, connecting it to me, to Sunday dinners, to the woman who hugged her and called her Mom. Then Patricia replied, Oh, Marcus, you need to be more careful. If Nina finds out, it'll destroy everything. Keep it quiet. Handle it. Don't let this blow up. I didn't feel shocked. Shock requires surprise. This wasn't surprise. This was confirmation. She knew. She knew, and her first instinct wasn't stop. It wasn't you're ruining your family. It was don't get caught. I scrolled further. More messages. Weeks of them. Patricia checking in like she was managing a project. Is everything handled? Does she suspect anything? Be careful, Nina is not stupid. Not stupid. That line almost made me laugh. She knew exactly what I was. She just didn't care. There was one thread that made my stomach turn. 2 months ago. Marcus. Tara's pregnant. A pause. Then Patricia. Oh God, can she take care of it? I read that again. And again. Because there are sentences that don't land the first time. Your brain rejects them. Tries to rewrite them into something more human. But there was no rewriting that. Marcus, I'm trying to convince her. Patricia, she has to. This will ruin everything. Do whatever you need to do. Do whatever you need to do. Not think about the baby. Not this is your child. Not what have you done. Just solve the problem. Erase the evidence. Protect the image. I sat back in my chair slowly. My vision felt too sharp, like everything in the room had edges now. Because in that moment, I understood something I hadn't fully grasped before. Marcus didn't learn this behavior alone. This wasn't just him being weak. This was him being trained. Enabled. Protected. His mother wasn't just aware of the betrayal. She was part of it. The logistics coordinator of my humiliation. Helping him schedule it, contain it, manage it, while smiling across from me at dinner like nothing was wrong. I kept scrolling. 4 months of it. Advice. Warnings. Check-ins. At one point, Patricia even wrote, Make sure you're deleting messages. You're being sloppy. I let out a slow breath through my nose. Not because I was overwhelmed, but because something inside me had gone very still. Very clear. The grief I felt the night before, it was gone. What replaced it was sharper, cleaner, resolve. I took screenshots of everything, every message, every timestamp, every word. I emailed them to myself, backed them up, sent copies to a new folder labeled Legal. Then I sat there for a moment, staring at Patricia's name on the screen. The woman who kissed my cheek every Sunday, who held Elijah like he was her whole world, who called me daughter. And all that time, she had been texting her son behind my back, asking if I suspected anything. I picked up my phone, and I called her. She answered on the second ring. Bright, warm, sweet. Nina, honey, hi, how are you? I almost admired it, that level of performance. I know about Tara, I said. Silence. Immediate. Heavy. And I know you knew. Another silence. Longer this time. I could hear her breathing. Measured. Calculating. Then, Nina, I have the messages, Patricia. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. 4 months of you helping Marcus hide his affair, coaching him, asking if Tara was under control, telling him to convince her to get rid of the baby. A small, sharp inhale on the other end. I have all of it. Nina, sweetheart, you're misunderstanding. There's nothing to misunderstand. My voice stayed calm. Steady? You knew your son was cheating on me. You helped him cover it up. You sat across from me at dinner. You held my son. You called me family. I paused. Let the silence stretch just enough to land. And the entire time you were texting him, asking if I suspected anything. Nina, I was trying to protect... Protect who? That was the first time my voice shifted. Not louder, just sharper. Because it wasn't me. It's complicated. No, I said, it's not. Another silence. This one felt different. Not defensive. Cornered. That's when I said the thing I had already decided the moment I read those messages. We're done. Her breath caught. You will never see Elijah again. The reaction was immediate. Explosive. You can't do that, she snapped. He's my grandson. My blood. And there it was. Not remorse. Not apology. Entitlement. I closed my eyes briefly. Then answered. Your blood is exactly the problem. I hung up, blocked her number, and sat there in the quiet that followed. It didn't feel like loss. It felt like subtraction. Like removing something toxic that had been sitting inside my life unnoticed. I didn't cry. I didn't hesitate. Because the truth had done something important. It had simplified everything. Marcus wasn't confused. Patricia wasn't misguided. Tara wasn't emotional. They were all making choices. Consistent. Deliberate. Self-serving choices. And now, so was I. That afternoon, I called a lawyer. Her name was Diana Reeves. Recommended by a coworker who said, if you ever need someone ruthless, call her. I needed ruthless. We met the next morning. I walked into her office with a folder full of evidence. Printed messages, screenshots, credit card statements, a timeline of lies. She didn't interrupt while I spoke, didn't react emotionally. She just listened, carefully. Then she took the folder, flipped through a few pages, and nodded once. This is clean, she said. Clean? I repeated. Very, she said. He's been spending shared assets on an affair. There's documented deception. And his mother's involvement? She gave a small, impressed exhale. That's unusual, but helpful. Helpful. That word felt strange attached to something that had destroyed my life. But I understood what she meant. Evidence wasn't emotional. It was leverage. Do you want spousal support? She asked. I didn't hesitate. I want everything. She smiled. Not kindly. Not cruelly. Just approvingly. That's the right answer. We filed within the week. Marcus tried to call. Text. Email. I ignored all of it, because at that point, there was nothing left to discuss. You can't negotiate with someone who spent 7 months lying to your face while building a second life behind your back. You don't mediate with someone who categorized you as a responsibility. You don't reconcile with a family that watched it happen and chose silence. You end it. Clean. Final. And that's exactly what I was going to do. The divorce was finalized in 5 months. Clean. Fast. Brutal in the way truth tends to be when it's documented instead of argued. Marcus fought it, of course. Not because he wanted me back. Not because he missed Elijah. But because he didn't want to lose what the marriage had given him. The house. The money. The stability he had taken for granted while building a second life on the side. In court, he sat 3 chairs away from me, wearing the same calm expression he used the night he said, "It's not what you think." But this time the performance didn't land. Because this time, there was evidence. My lawyer, Diana, laid everything out. The messages, the timeline, the credit card charges, the hotel receipts, the jewelry I never received, the OBGYN visit that wasn't mine. And then, Patricia, her texts, her advice, her quiet, deliberate participation. At one point, Diana said, Your Honor, the respondent spent approximately $14,000 in shared assets on an affair partner over 7 months, while receiving guidance from his mother on how to conceal it. The judge read the messages, slowly, carefully. I watched his face, not angry, not emotional, just done, like he had seen enough. When he looked up at Marcus, there was something in his expression I will never forget. Disgust, not loud, not dramatic, just quiet, undeniable judgment. The ruling came quickly after that. I got the house, primary custody of Elijah, child support, spousal support for 3 years, half of his retirement. Everything I asked for. Marcus didn't look at me when it was over. He just sat there for a moment, like he was trying to understand how something he thought he controlled had slipped completely out of his hands. That's the thing about men like him. They mistake silence for permission. They mistake patience for weakness. They mistake stability for something that can't be taken away. Until it is. Marcus moved in with Tara. Yes, the same woman who called my house while I was bathing my son. The same woman who used my life as leverage in her argument with him. They lasted 4 months. 4. She kicked him out after finding messages on his phone. Another woman. Not me. Not even the woman he left me for. Someone new. Because men like Marcus don't cheat because of who they're with. They cheat because of who they are. Tara had the baby. A girl. Marcus's daughter. A child born into a situation she never chose, raised by two people who had already proven they couldn't protect anything they touched. I felt something for that child. Not anger. Not resentment. Just pity. Because none of this was hers. Patricia lost everything. Elijah because I cut her off completely. And Tara's baby because Tara eventually saw the messages too. The ones where Patricia called her pregnancy a problem. The ones where she asked if it could be taken care of. Tara made her own decision after that. Patricia would never meet her granddaughter. 2 grandchildren. Gone. Because she chose to protect a lie instead of a family. Shelby stayed. That part surprised me. I thought this would destroy us. I thought the connection, her sister, my life, would be too much. But Shelby did something nobody else in this story did. She chose. Immediately. Without hesitation. She called Tara and said, "What you did is unforgivable." She didn't soften it. Didn't excuse it. Didn't hide behind, "She's still my sister." She chose me. 20 years of friendship over blood. And it cost her. Her family fractured. Her mother tried to stay neutral. Neutral. The word people use when they don't want to pick a side that requires courage. "She's your sister," her mom told her. "You can't just cut her off." Shelby said, "Watch me." Thanksgiving that year was split in 2. Shelby came to my house. We made dinner together. Turkey, stuffing, too much wine. Elijah in his high chair, throwing mashed potatoes and laughing like the world hadn't changed at all. After he fell asleep, we sat on the couch watching a terrible movie and laughing until it hurt. It was the best Thanksgiving I'd had in years. Not because everything was perfect, but because everything was honest. I saw Tara once, 3 weeks after the phone call, before the divorce was finalized. A coffee shop. Small town luck, or fate, depending on what you believe. She saw me the second I walked in. Her face went pale. I walked over, sat across from her. She opened her mouth. "Nina, I'm not here to yell," I said. And I wasn't. Anger had already burned through me. What I had left was something colder, clearer. "I just want you to understand something." She nodded slowly, her hands wrapped around her coffee cup like it was the only thing anchoring her. "You didn't call me because I deserve to know," I said. "You called because you were angry at him." Her eyes dropped. "You used me," I continued, "as a weapon in your fight with him." Silence. "My son was in the bathtub," I said, laughing, "playing with a rubber duck, and you chose that moment." Her fingers tightened around the cup. "You're going to raise a daughter," I said quietly. "So remember this." She looked up at me then, eyes wide. "The first thing you ever did as a mother was use another mother's pain for revenge." I stood up, walked out, and I never spoke to her again. Marcus tried to reach out twice after the divorce, both times with the same tone. Careful, measured. "I just want us to be friendly for Elijah's sake." I told him, "We can be civil." "That's it. Civil. You show up on time. You drop him off on time. You don't speak beyond what's necessary. We are not friends. We are not anything. We are 2 people who share a child. And that's where it ends." The 3rd custody exchange after the divorce, he tried again. "Nina, I just want you to know I'm sorry. I really am. I should have been better." I looked at him, really looked at him, and said, "You should have been a lot of things." Then I turned around and went back inside. He didn't try again after that. Elijah is 5 now. He doesn't ask about Patricia. He doesn't ask about Marcus's other child. He asks about dinosaurs, ice cream, why the sky changes colors at night. He is happy, safe, growing up in a home that belongs to me, with a mother who doesn't lie to him, with a best friend he calls Aunt Shelby, who shows up every Saturday with cupcakes and terrible jokes. I rebuilt everything. New locks, new paint, new furniture, not out of anger, out of necessity. You can't heal in a space that still carries the shape of the person who hurt you. So I reshaped it, made it mine. The landline is gone. Disconnected a week after that call. Marcus said it was for emergencies. He was right. It just wasn't the kind of emergency he expected. 6:47 p.m. A Thursday. Chicken burning in the oven. A rubber duck in the bathtub. And a voice on the phone that said, "I'm sleeping with your boyfriend. I'm 8 weeks pregnant. And I think you should know." That call destroyed my relationship. My trust. My belief that the people closest to me were safe. But it gave me something too. The truth. Sharp. Ugly. Delivered by the worst possible person. But still, the truth. And the truth set me free. From Marcus. From Patricia. From the version of my life that had been a lie long before I knew it. The chicken burned that night. I made mac and cheese for Elijah instead. He ate it with his hands, smiling like nothing in the world had changed. And when he looked at me and said, "Mama, you're the best cook ever," I smiled, because he was wrong. I'm a terrible cook, but I'm a great mother, and that's the only thing that matters.